Kedu muy walnek deze gluka kisku ignu muyak. Kisku kedu also mesokika said Nora wigama. A kedu also mesok Nora. Keji gek dan erli wul jaig. A kedu also mesoki Nora wujisk utusk wigama.
Her legacy is for us what she left us to teach, to love the best you can, and to speak your truth.
I think sometimes people don't really know that they're going to make an impact. They just do it.
You hear that expression, somebody should do something. And she did.
You know that saying, like, God was showing off when he created you? That was her.
Mig we did nin. Well, mig we did.
Mom was born September 22nd, 1935.
And she would stay in this community until she was 9 years old. Somebody found out that my mother's mother was raising them alone. Unfortunately, they came in and they made my mother and her siblings head to the Indian residential school.
She did not have a good life there. Every form of abuse she went through, mental, physical, psychological, sexual. Mom said they wanted to treat us like we were devils and stop our traditions, our practices, and our cultures.
Like most white Canadians at the time, I'd never heard of the residential school system and I didn't know what had gone on there. And it was quite apparent to me that what happened to these folks was terribly wrong and it was a terrible injustice.
My mother, she was a single parent and there was 5 daughters at that time. I would be almost 11 years old and my mother would have her last child and that was my brother Jason. So she worked 2 jobs to support us, to keep us together. You know, that was really important for my mother. Nobody would come to take her children just because she was taken from her home community when her father left the family home.
Despite everything that her and her siblings have been through, they still maintain humor. And I think that has really gotten us out of dark times, is humor. I can't even begin to describe how incredible she was.
She treated everyone with respect and dignity and honor.
It was the first time I ever seen anyone braid sweetgrass and hold it with their toes. And she was just braiding so cool, right? I just thought that was awesome, and that's something I've always remembered about Nora.
Learning how to pick sweetgrass for me, from my mom, it's cultural, you know, it's the roots of who we are with respect to the medicines.
She was just one of a kind.
In September of '86, she submitted this very small little notice in the Micmac newspaper. This little tiny clipping just said, looking for survivors of the Shubenacadie Indian Residential School, please call Nora Bernard, and it was her telephone number. Our home phone never stopped, morning, noon, and night.
Our ancestors spoke to me, she said, and wanted me to move forward. And I had to speak for them, and I have to speak for my children as well.
She started her organization at her kitchen table. You know, it grew over time.
I just remember growing up that she always had survivors coming. Sometimes they'd be like, well, Nora, you know, we haven't eaten, and she'd make sure they had something to eat.
I've been in attendance in a couple of those meetings where there was a hat being passed around for people for gas money. There was like people hitchhiking to meetings.
A lot of the residential school survivors were grateful for what she was doing.
We weren't going to tell anybody what we were up to, what we were doing, until we were really into the discussions with our own lawyer.
I first met Nora in, I think it was September of 1995. What Nora wanted to do was bring a claim on behalf of everyone that had attended the Shubenacadie Residential School, because she felt that what happened to each of these children, being taken from their families and forced into these institutions, was harmful, and that they deserved some form of justice and accountability.
They were talking about this never being done before, and my mom said, well, just because it wasn't done doesn't mean that it can't be done.
Because she believed she could do it and she could make a change, and that she can bring positive and things to our people and to show other people who we were.
We filed that class action in 1996, and the survivors from across the country started to pursue a single class action that eventually, in May of 2006, was approved by the Federal Court of Canada. And at the time, it was the largest class action settlement in Canadian history and the largest historical redress claim in the world.
It was amazing. I knew she was a firecracker. I knew she was a warrior woman. And how could she not win? Because it was like she said, her ancestors stood with her when she spoke.
Well, when she'd done all this to the Catholic Church and the government, what more can you do, huh? So I'm proud.
It was very emotional for a lot of people, but it also was a moment where you couldn't deny what happened anymore. And it allowed education to be shared with both Indigenous and non-Indigenous people.
It was eye-opening, I think, for them. What our people were going through, what our people went through, and what our people are still going through today.
Mr. Speaker, I stand before you today to offer an apology to former students of Indian residential schools.
So my grandmother wasn't alive when the apology came. That's when she met her goal, was when they apologized, not when they gave out money from a lawsuit, because that wasn't the purpose.
It's led to a change in curriculum across the country. It's helped educate Canadians about this shameful part of our history.
I am hoping, for our people that we can continue to heal, because we're hurt people and we got to heal. And I feel like all of her efforts and all of her commitment to her people were for that.
I think her name should go down in history, and it should be in history books.
Future generations will know, the impact of residential schools and how we're still here. We're still fighting, just as Nora was a fighter.
I have not tried to fill her shoes, but I walk alongside of them with honor and respect for everything that she has done during her life.
She's right here all the time. And if I want to do anything, I look at her picture and I ask her, does that sound all right?
And I cry for my mama's touch that in my dreams is real. I cry for my daddy's love that in my heart I feel.